It was kind of interesting to listen to Kirby talk to Paul Feinbaum the other day, and he said the honeymoon is over, talking about the Georgia National Championship celebrations. Uh, not not outside the program. There's plenty of people who are still celebrating, um, and and they will for a while. And honestly, this goes back to something that Jake Rowe asked Kirby a while ago, and Kirby's answer was like epic, I thought. And I can't remember, we were in Birmingham or whatever it is down there at media days, and Jake asked him about winning the national championship or something in that universe, and Kirby said, of course, of course that's what we want to do. What's the point of all of this unless you are trying to win it all? That's the whole point. And and he followed it up with, I don't want to make it seem like that's all he said. He talked also too about how, you know, maybe not in this question he didn't, but he's also talked about the connections that you have with people through the years, and that he'd stop doing it all when he stops having those sorts of connections. Um, it just it was a curious comment from Kirby. I know he's trying to focus his team moving forward, and that's always a challenging thing to do after you just won the national championship. I mean, part of the hard part about so-called repeating as a national championship team is that the teams are different. Um, you don't have the same players, and when you look at the betting odds from various outlets and books, DraftKings has Georgia and Alabama at plus 200 and 300. You have at MGM, it's plus 200 for Bama, plus 250 for Georgia, and then you know there's really no one near them. Everybody else is at 500 plus 500 or more, and that's Ohio State. I mean, Clemson's at plus 1200. Texas A&M is at plus 2000 or 250. It's hard to so-called repeat, and the reason why we've not seen that a lot is because teams change every year. It's not like an NFL team where you can keep the bulk of that team back. When you look at that Alabama team in 2011 that repeated in 12, they had the same quarterback. They had a lot of the same players. They did have some turnover though, and the reason why they didn't repeat or three-peat, of course, besides the kick six, they had lost a lot of guys by then. I mean, the team had really turned over. The 11 defense was not the same as the 12 defense. That 11 defense, of course, coordinated by Kirby. But this Georgia team is going to have to find its own footing along the way, and that's easier said than done. The guy on the cover, the guy on the back and the front of this, both those guys are back. But the guy that took a big shot right there, he's back, different number. The guy in the background there, Nolan Smith, he's back. Can't see William Poole completely. He's back. And Chris Smith is right behind him. Chris Smith is back. Those guys are all back. But this guy is gone. And that's going to matter. Same thing with the beginning of the first few pages of this thing. N'Kobe, Devontae, they're gone. And, you're going to have guys pick up the pieces along the way. That's why he's saying the honeymoon is over. Is there's a lot still left to be um, drawn out with this team and this program. Where do you go to get some of the stops that you had in the past? You know, if Kirby's talking about how they're not as talented, which I think what he's saying there is true, then that means that they're going to have to win in different ways, you know. And is this season just going to come down to beating Alabama in the right game? That could be the case. I mean, this thing could come down to two 12 and O's at number 1 and 2 in the country playing in the SEC championship game, and then that just being for seeding for who doesn't play Ohio State, basically, in the first round of the college football playoff. That totally could be what this is. But we're a long way from that. And a lot of the guys that played on Saturday were newcomers. I mean, newcomers to the spotlight, but that does not mean that they're not gifted or in theory more gifted than the players that they're replacing. I mean, if you watch Kendall Milton on Saturday, it'd be hard for you to say that he's got less capability to have a big season than James Cook and Zamir last year. I mean, Kendall Milton looks like he could be the real deal right away. Right away. But we're just gonna have to see. And when Kirby talks about how the honeymoon's over, I'm not sure I totally believe that. In the this weekend, I had the ability to talk with a lot of people at Red Zone on Clayton Street downtown in Athens, and people are still very excited. And the difference between this season and seasons gone by is that Georgia fans have been excited since they left Indianapolis. And that's not going to slow down because what happens is in the college football season is you lose your terminal game. Everybody loses a terminal game. Michigan lost to Georgia, Alabama lost to the Dogs, Cincinnati lost to Alabama. I don't know when the Gators terminal game was. I guess when they lost to LSU. That was bizarre. But you lose your terminal game. And then you make coaching changes or the new quarterback comes in and you watch the spring game and you try to kind of, you know, gussy up for the next season. And some of that has to do with do you win your bowl game or not? Some of it has to do with, the circumstances surrounding the next season. Georgia's fan base has still been riding high. Now, when you get to media days in the summer, in the late summer, that's when everybody's momentum and optimism picks up. South Carolina fans are notoriously made fun of for this. But I'm not sure how far down folks are going to come from this championship game. I think the honeymoon will really be over when Georgia loses it's the next game it plays. I mean, whatever that may be. They hadn't lost a game since they lost to the Gators in Jacksonville when Dan Mullen was the coach in 2020 in the pandemic. I mean, a full crowd. Well, I misspoke. I'm certain all of y'all caught this. They haven't lost a terminal game since then. Of course, they lost to Alabama in Atlanta, but they haven't lost a terminal game since Florida in 2020. They haven't lost a terminal game with the stadium full since the LSU game in 2019 when LSU was riding a bullet train to possibly being the greatest team of all time, only to be the next season be discussed as the greatest team of all time too, by that Alabama team, which was very good. But I don't know when this honeymoon's over, but it's not over for fans. I see too many of them, talk to too many of them. They're way too happy right now to suggest that the love is fading. It's not. This honeymoon continues, Kirby, no matter what you say.